Hi, everyone. I'm Sam Osterhout, and it is time again for your weekly look behind the curtains of white nationalism, Christian white nationalism with Andra Watkins. Andra, how are you?
I'm great. I've had a special day this week, and I'm a little bit rested, I think.
Oh, that's good. Going into the weekend, that's nice.
Yeah,
And no
yeah.
kings? Are you going to be able to protest at all?
I need to see if there's a protest where I am. I'm sure there is. They have lots of signs about helping women in Iran here.
Oh, really? That's
Yeah.
amazing.
I mean, you don't ever see that in the US, but anyway.
No. Yeah, and for everyone out there, we're taping this on Friday. So you'll see it on Sunday. We'll be in the chat. Don't worry. We're still with you. So I also wanted to just say, if you have pics or videos of inspiring images from No Kings, feel free to put them in the chat or link or send them in the comments. If you look for, we're trying to provide ways that we can kind of collaborate on this with you guys and with us on Lincoln Square. So look for that. Today, though, Andra, this week has been like your Nostradamus, right? Not to put too fine a point on it, but all of the things you've been saying for years are just lining up and happening. And so today, I think we have to talk about why introspection is so terrible for Christians or white Christian nationalists. I want to talk about prayers at the Pentagon. And then therapy. We need a good dose of therapy. And particularly the Christians, the white Christian nationalists do. So let's start with the prayers at the Pentagon. This is the thing, I know you took some time off this week, and then this story broke where, Hegseth says he's praying. First of all, he's praying at the Pentagon. And this is a weekly thing, and we've covered this before. But he's praying for violence against those who deserve no mercy. Right? He said that he hopes every bullet hits its mark. What's going on here?
This is Christian nationalist warrior language. When I grew up in white Christian nationalism, we sang the song "Onward, Christian Soldiers, Marching as to War" while we marched in place. So, we were taught to see our enemies as an enemy to be destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
And an enemy wasn't just a person of another faith or an atheist. An enemy was anyone who disagreed with us and how we saw the world as white Christian nationalists. And that is what is permeating the Pentagon here now. And they've gone. I reshared a video that I did last May when they announced this Pentagon prayer service. Today, I reshared the video. And it was a monthly prayer service when they started it. And I said, it'll become a weekly, and it has. And I said it won't be optional for very long. Now it's everybody goes because they know they're expected to go, even though it may still be touted as optional. It's not optional. That's not how these groups work. So we have Hegseth actually using this Christian nationalist warrior language in front of our soldiers,
mm-hmm.
and indoctrinating them in that way of thinking. He's redefining who the enemy is. The enemy is not external anymore. The enemy could be someone who is a humanist or an atheist or someone who is secular. It could be a progressive Christian. That's how he's redefining who his enemy is, and stripping out all the different faith modalities, over 200 different identified faith modalities in the US, and winnowing that down to 31 which once we can see that list, I will predict will be mostly Christian nationalist faith modalities. I would suspect that things like Unitarian and progressive Christian bodies will not be on it, requiring chaplains to wear their religious insignias. I mean, this sounds like a Christian nationalist Revolutionary Guard.
I mean, it sounds like the Empire, right?
Yeah.
It's Star Wars, like it's bananas.
Yeah. So it's very upsetting to have been this right. But at the same time, we need to talk about it because more Americans need to understand what this could mean for them. This is not something that you're going to lay low from. It's not something that you're going to vote your way out of. It's not something that you're just going to try to get, ride out. This is something that will come for everybody.
And, we've talked about this a lot. I think the list of approved religions is very telling because it's kind of the base layer of all of this is who gets to choose, right? Who gets to choose? So who is doing the approving, right? That is the question that we all need to ask. And it's people like Hegseth. It's people, like the pastors that who are calling for James Talarico's death, which they backed up. We should talk about that in a minute as well. But, just a quick story. In high school, I did this thing called Boys State. And you knew about that, Andra?
I knew about it. Of course, I didn't do it, but I knew about it.
Yeah, I think there was a girls' state too, but all of us kind of did it, and it was just a regular. I don't know. I didn't think anything of it. It was just a thing you were meant to do, and we all got in and went. And mind you, I grew up in Kansas, where me and my pals were probably a lot more left than most people. But we get there, and it was. You got to march, right? There's a lot of marching that takes place. It's really like a mock government. You build you elect a governor from the boys in the camp. You elect, aldermen and representatives from different parts of the state, and you build a state government. So the first hour and a half of every day, you march, and then you get to this sort of parking lot, and there's a stage set up where the men who run the thing are on the stage and they do a benediction, right? They pray. And there was, they say, bow your heads, everyone bow your heads. And there's 400 of us, and a friend of mine would just he's like, I'm not going to bow my head. This is stupid. And the kid next to him elbows him and he says, bow your fucking head like this. Right. And so my friend was like, okay, I will actually do that because I don't want to get beaten up right now. But this is, I think about this as people like Hegseth. Hegseth was basically the guy standing next to my friend, bow your head. That's all coercion. And it makes me feel like this militarism, like you were saying, the marching in place, the recitation and all of that, has been a part of this all along. It just, us normies didn't really see it.
Well, I mean, it's certainly been a part of white Christian nationalist churches for decades. It's also been inserted in and out of the military. I mean, I have someone who follows my work who was very high up in one branch of the military who says this has been going on since the 70s or 80s in the military, where they'd get somebody in at a high level and they'd try to inject this into whatever they had control over. But we've never had someone like that controlling it all.
Yes.
So, that's the difference here. We may have certain aspects of this that has been seeded across the different branches of the military, but we've never had someone at the top who's now telling everyone, this is what you're going to believe. And this is how we're going to restructure the military to make sure that you either get on board with this way of thinking or you're going to be put out of the military. It's and I mean, the military again is a form of indoctrination.
Of course.
You know, you go into the military. I've never been in the military. I don't think you've been in the military, but you know, you go in and they break you down in basic training and, you know, give you a certain way to approach things. And that is a form of indoctrination. This is, you follow the chain of command and you do things a certain way, and you have to do that or people die. You know, that is part of what the military is about. But this is an infusion of a different kind of indoctrination, religious indoctrination, the confluence of war fighting and Christian nationalist religious beliefs being one of the things that people should be fighting for and killing for at the highest point of our military, and being put down through the ranks. And when people push back in leadership positions, they're replaced.
Right.
When people don't go along, and I said this last May, the people who don't go along with these optional prayer breakfast, prayer services that were monthly at the time that have now become weekly, will be pushed out. You know, it's a way to identify who will go along and who can be indoctrinated in this and who won't go along, so that they can put them to the side. They've had a year over, you know, almost a year to do that now. So they're rolling out the next phase.
And this is, you know, that kind of circling of the wagons, you know, around your people or the approved people. The circle is now encompassing the entire borders of the United States, right? That is the thing. And you are now, whether you like it or not, a part of that circle. And you know, we've talked about this in the past too. You're going to have to believe, or else you won't get services. You won't get support. You'll be ostracized, and all of this. And I think the military aspect of it makes that even more frightening, because it's coercion through violence. I mean, Doug Wilson, our favorite pastor, who is Hegseth's pastor, right?
He's Hegseth's spiritual mentor's pastor.
Okay.
Brooks Pottinger is, I think, actually Hegseth's direct.
I see. But Doug Wilson is a head honcho kind of guy. And he said he does not support women's right to vote. He's openly lobbying for a Christian theocratic vision in Washington. When asked if establishing a DC church was part of a mission to turn U.S. into a Christian nation, Wilson said, yes, in fact, it is. And this is another thing that we talk about all the time, that you've been calling out for a long time. But all of this feels unbelievable. It feels like the Da Vinci Code, right? They are telling us all of this. They are saying all of it.
Yeah, and what continues to be so frustrating for me is there are millions of Americans who've never been exposed to this.
Yes.
You've never been around people who've been in high control environments, or who are currently in high control environments. And so you just think, well, this is just a subset. It's a few people. It's a few wingnut cracks and cranks, and we don't have to worry about that. I mean, they're never going to take over all of it. And so I keep going back to a PRRI, like a Pew Religion survey, the last one that was done on Christian nationalism that I saw. You know, there are 300 and some million people in the United States. 64% of those people now identify as Christian. That's down from 90-something% in the 1970s. Wow. And Christian nationalists, quite frankly, have themselves to thank for that. But anyway, you know, 64% of 300 and something million people is approaching 200 million people, if I can do the math in my head real quick, and I'm not good at that. So let's just go with that number. 10% of that 64% were deemed to be hardcore, radicalized, extremist Christian nationalists by the survey takers. So that, you know, is roughly 20 million people. if I do the math in my head correctly. And another 20% were deemed, of that 64%, were deemed to be Christian nationalist sympathizers, Christian nationalist adjacent. These are people who could be radicalized and pulled into the 10% given the right circumstances and the right incentives. So that could be another 40 or so million people.
Ugh.
60 million Americans, whether you know any of them at all or not, is a lot of people. So, and these are the people who are like Pete Hegseth, who are trying to turn the military essentially into a Christian nationalist war fighting machine who will fight enemies that they define as enemies, which aren't just going to be foreign enemies anymore. It is a 10 alarm fire for this country and the people in this country to stop sitting and saying, every week, Sam and Andra talk all these conspiracy theories, and there's nobody like that. Nobody believes that stuff. That sounds crazy. 60 million people, according to an independent surveyor, could be in that group of people who believe that it's okay to have our military killing their enemies, including secular humanists and people who don't agree with their faith.
Well, I want to roll this clip, and because it gets to that point. I also want to call out Right Wing Watch on Blue Sky. They are the sort of Aaron Rupar of these clips. Whoever is behind that, do you know who's behind that? Right Wing?
I don't, and I can't watch it very much because it gives me PTSD. But
it's awful. It's really awful.
I don't know who does it. I don't know how they protect themselves, but I'm so grateful that you can do it.
I know. Okay, so I'll play this one. We'll limit your exposure, Andra.
End game in pushing egalitarianism pertaining to the sexes almost exclusively in the West and nowhere else is because they want Western people, particularly those of European descent, aka white people, to stop procreating. This is the destruction of the world. Egalitarianism is not baked into the scripture. It is baked into the fabric of communism. It's baked into the fabric of Marxism, and it is baked into the fabric of Judaism, which I believe is the root of communism. It is the root of transgenderism. It is the root of Marxism. It is the root of all bitter, baseless envy that just seeks to destroy the world.
Ugh. So this is again a listing of outgroups, right? Mm-hmm. And also not only a listing of outgroups, but a blame for all the problems, right? Those outgroups created these problems, and we're here to solve those problems. And I want to connect all of these dots: the militarism, and that, the in-group, the out-group. But first, we have to talk about introspection, because Mark Andreessen, who, as far as we all know, is not a Christian nationalist, he's just an idiot who doesn't have introspection, has said that introspection is an invention that's only 100 years old. Like, he said something along the lines of, 200 years ago, nobody would ever have thought about thinking about themselves or what's going on in their minds. Of course, he's clearly not read, Greek philosophers or right, or anything like that. But that is also, goes towards what Hegseth said. He said chaplains have been minimized, viewed by many as therapists, not ministers, and he wants to strip them of that therapeutic function, right? He also scrapped the U.S. Army Spiritual Fitness Guide. Why the war on introspection?
I mean, and this is a confluence between the techno-fascists and the Christo-fascists, the Christian nationalists. So, Elon Musk has been attacking therapy and empathy and introspection also, as has Peter Thiel, as has Curtis Yarvin. I mean, all of them. And as someone who has been in a high control environment and gotten out of it, and other people who have will tell you the same thing. Introspection leads to questioning the leader.
Yeah.
Introspection leads to critical thinking, potentially. Introspection leads to questioning something horrible that you did at the behest of your leader. And maybe feeling bad about something that they don't want you to feel bad about. So in any type of high control group, they attack things like introspection because it could lead you to be more difficult to control. So this attack on introspection, this attack on empathy, which, I didn't talk about in my piece today, but that's been a slow rolling thing that is gaining speed as well. Empathy is terrible. Empathy is horrible. We don't need to be empathetic.
So you can't look inside of yourself or outside of yourself, right?
Right. But it conditions people to be able to do really horrible things without questioning themselves or their leaders. And that's where this is headed.
Yeah.
That and Hegseth trying to define what therapy is essentially as what I said in 2024. Christian nationalists don't believe in any kind of therapy except Bible reading and prayer. And everything that you need to be a whole human being is in the Bible. And if you're not getting that out of it, then it's your fault. And you need to read the Bible more, and you need to pray more, and you need to go to church more. And that's what he's setting up at the Pentagon. That's what this chaplaincy restructuring is about. It's about giving people in the military who need mental health help that option. And that's all for getting help. So, the only things they're going to be given are Christian nationalist tools now to try to deal with whatever mental health issues they're facing. And that's horrifying to me.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, and I like to boil everything down to this, we have so many disparate parts of this, right? And I think, again, sort of connecting those dots, and you did it here. You have militarized religion. We need to not only make all of our, these war fighters, as he calls them, violent and lethal. We need all of our bullets to kill all of the right people. But we have to believe in all of these other things. And so I wonder, what is the end game? Like, what all of these things are swirling, and it's I think it's pleasant to just think that Hegseth is an idiot, or a narcissist and a just privileged white dude who has failed upward his entire life, and that's also true. But it does feel like this is more about coercion and control than about stoking Hegseth's ego. Is that right?
That's how I've interpreted it the whole time. And if, I personally believe if a head rolls over the Iran war, it will be Hegseth's.
Yes.
And someone worse than him is going to come in and fill that role. I mean, that's what happened with the Department of Homeland Security. Markwayne Mullin is so much worse than Kristi Noem ever thought of being.
Oh,
he
yeah.
was so much worse. And that's what will happen with Hegseth. And, I feel like putting almost these clowns in place at the beginning was a strategy. And I know a lot of people say these people don't have strategy, but I really believe they do. And they've had it for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So, to put somebody like him in a role like this, you don't take him seriously. People don't.
Yeah, right.
And so, it makes it easier for them to work behind the scenes and put all these other things in place that will make our military a Christian Nationalist Revolutionary Guard. I keep coming back to that. I mean, this is what their goal is. That's what their end goal is a Christian nationalist theocracy, theonomy, whatever you want to call it, with white Christian nationalist men governing every aspect of our lives. And the scary part of that is now with people like Peter Thiel and Palantir, they actually have the ability to surveil every aspect of our lives. And they're building that into part of this government structure. So, the time for Americans to sit back and wait for somebody else to come in and do something about this is long past.
Mm-hmm.
We have got to get our acts together and save ourselves if we're going to. Once this becomes the military fully, no option that I really want to contemplate is going to be the only way out of it.
Yeah.
And we've seen that happen to the Iranian people in the past few months. They've lived under a government like this for 50 years. And to me, they were close to getting out of it. And tens of thousands of them died trying to fight this government that now we've probably helped solidify control again.
Yeah. Yeah, they were. And if they weren't close, they were closer than they had been.
Right. And so, that's where these kinds of control structures and thought processes and radicalization and turning people into indoctrinated, robotic, religious fanatics will lead
Mm-hmm.
us to. And yes, it sounds like a conspiracy theory. Yes, it sounds like the Da Vinci Code. Yes, every week it sounds like I'm just some sort of hysterical harpy here. But these people also exist. And I don't know how anyone can read his words. And please understand, 60 million people potentially who believe the same thing standing behind him. Even though he looks like a clown, even though you think he's ridiculous, that does not mean that there aren't millions and millions and millions of Americans who ascribe to the exact thing he's saying. And so you have to take that seriously. If you can't listen to me, find somebody you can listen to who'll help you take it seriously, because this is serious.
Well, and so I want to end this part of the conversation with this video because I think it drives home a particular point. Let's watch.
This is a moment where if I didn't have my eyes on the Lord, I'd be confused. And I know that there are people who are Christians who are confused. I think the first thing I'll say, or at least the thing I'll say right now to really respond, is that I believe God's hand is on President Trump. And I trust this president. I trust his judgment. He has earned that trust. But even beyond that, I really believe the Lord has created him for this season. And if I didn't know that, I would be concerned.
I mean, that's the whole thing, right? Trump may be doing the worst things on earth, but it's God's plan, right?
Mm-hmm.
No other politician would ever have that sort of leeway, that sort of hand of God thing. And it does feel very culty.
Well, it absolutely is a cult. It's a death cult.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's exacerbated by how people like Hegseth believe we're living in the last days and the end times. And we need this apocalyptic thing to happen so that Jesus can return. It is very much a death cult.
And so what, as we kind of wind down, what should we be looking at? Like, what should we be watching for as the coming weeks unfold? What do we need to prepare ourselves for, Andra?
I don't want to make predictions. This could go a lot of ways. it's interesting to me to watch how the Iran war is playing out, because no tool that's ever been deployed by our leader he can't control the story on this one.
Yeah, right.
Can't
Right.
bribe, can't mafioso, can't sue, can't, there's no tool. This is new territory. And that's really scary when you're dealing with someone like this, because the further they get backed into a corner, the more scary they might respond. So there are those things that are scary. So rather than talk about that, I'd rather encourage people here, find a community group and join it if you haven't already done so, and start working together with people in your community to figure out how you would feed yourselves, protect yourselves, get yourselves health care, educate yourselves, get yourselves things like energy and communications if some kind of awful scenario happens. Yeah. And if none of that happens, then you've met your neighbors and you've strengthened a structure that will help you live a better life. So, I'm not trying to get you to do something saying the worst thing is going to happen, but you are going to need people in your community to support each other. Whatever happens in the coming weeks and months, do that. Certainly attend a No Kings protest, but these No Kings protests have no teeth. Yeah, we can show millions of people, but if you're not opting out of fascist companies every day, if you're not looking and if you're not making hard decisions right now that are making you uncomfortable, then you're probably not fighting enough. I would go out of my way not to fly right now. I want to go to the 625% increase of clear people and at the airport and be like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Why are you supporting? BlackRock owns the biggest percentage of clear.
Go.
And I'm doing research to figure out which, people in Congress own pieces of it. So you're supporting a fascist company getting your taxpayer dollars and taking away a service that a lot of you have already paid for, to get even more taxpayer dollars to charge you. It'll be way more than $209 in a year.
Right.
So I don't understand why your vacation is that important to you. I don't understand why flying one more time is that important to you right now. I don't understand why buying the next piece of crap that you don't need from Amazon is that important to you right now. If you are not boycotting all these companies, I don't know what you're doing anymore. So, and I don't mean to sound like a butthole, but it's just like I get so angry. Americans are going to lose their country because they want convenience. So many of us are so spoiled by having conveniences, and you have to do without one or two conveniences, and you're like, oh my God, my life is over. Come on. Pete Hegseth is talking about killing people who are the enemy within, and you're worried about having to give up your Amazon Prime. I am, if that is where Americans continue to fall, then you deserve to lose your country.
That's our clip of the week, Andra. I am here for it. And also maybe marks the first time on any Lincoln Square show where the word butthole has appeared.
Well, I was trying not to say the a-hole word and be more cognizant of that people don't like cursing, especially when women do it. But God, I get angry at how, when I read the Clear story about 625% increase, I just wanted to scream.
These are the trades that we give, right? We trade our privacy for TikTok videos. We trade everything for convenience and ease, and I don't know. Well, look, this is where we need to wrap. I want to hear everyone's stories about No Kings. I know that it's, it feels like a symbol. It feels very symbolic getting together, but it also is, at least can be a catalyst for seeing your neighbors and seeing the people in your town or city who feel strongly about this as well, and brushing up against them. Use those interactions to move forward into the world. Right.
Especially if you come away from that with connections and contacts and
Yes.
plans to meet up.
No
I mean,
Kings.
that's how you can use No Kings.
Yep. No Kings is not an ending. It's a beginning. It has to be. So use those moments to carry us forward. Andra, thank you again. We are titling the show Unholy Ground. Finally, we have a title. I'd love to hear what y'all think about that title in the chat or in the comments when we post later. Andra, have a great week.
Thanks. Y'all, everybody here, I hope you're having a lovely weekend and can't wait to see you soon.